There is a moment most people have experienced and almost nobody talks about. It happens in the first few seconds of waking in an unfamiliar room, a hotel perhaps, a friend's house, somewhere away from the ordinary geography of your life. You open your eyes, and for a moment, sometimes just a fraction of a second, sometimes even longer, you do not know where you are. You do not know what day it is. You don't even know for that brief suspended moment who you are. And then it all comes flooding back. The name, the history, the list of things that need to happen today, the relationship to this room, this body, this life, all of it returning like a photograph developing slowly in a dark room. The outlines first, then the details, then finally the face that you recognize as your own. Most people experience this and immediately move past it. Coffee, phone, the day begins. Stay with it for a moment, because in that gap, in that fraction of experience before the self returned, something was still present, awake, aware, completely without content. No name, no story, no sense of being a particular person in a particular life, and yet undeniably aware. The ancient teachers, they had a name for this daily, they called it daily dissolution, Nitya Pralaya. And from Nitya, meaning daily or constant, and Pralaya, meaning dissolution, the temporary return of the manifest to its unmanifest source. Every night as you sleep, without exception, the self you have spent a lifetime constructing quietly dissolves. The opinions, the plans, the accumulation of identity of being you, gone. Every morning, without exception, it is rebuilt, sometimes slowly. If you have ever woken from a deep sleep and lain there in a kind of open, formless awareness for longer than usual, the room assembling itself gradually, the body becoming yours again, piece by piece, the name arriving last. You have touched the seam between dissolution and reconstruction. Think about what just happened. You went to sleep as someone, a name, a history, a particular set of worries and hopes and relationships, and for several hours, that someone simply was not there. No one was worrying. No one was planning. No one was carrying the weight of being you. And yet, this morning, here again, fully reconstructed, completely convincing. Where did you go? And who or what was present while you were gone? What this moment is revealing is almost too simple to believe. You are not a permanent thing. You are something that arises each morning and dissolves each night. The way a flame arises from a match and returns to the darkness when the match is spent. The flame is real while it burns, and yet nothing about it was ever permanent. And so what is doing the assembling? And what remains when the assembly has not yet begun? Stay with those questions as we go deeper, because what gets reconstructed every morning is not just a name and a history. It is a particular set of limitations, 5 of them. Precise, elegant, absolutely necessary for the experience of being a bounded individual. The ancient teachers called them the Kancukas, a Sanskrit word meaning cloak or sheath. 5 cloaks, nested within the great power of limitation, each one a specific contraction of the infinite consciousness into a particular shape of a finite life. The first cloak, Kala, the limitation of power. In your natural state, consciousness is the author of everything, complete creative power, nothing outside its own expression. This cloak contracts that vastness into experience of being a limited agent, someone who can do only some things, someone who cannot do others, someone who tries, strains, sometimes succeeds and sometimes fails. You know the feeling intimately, the sense that your power is partial, that there are forces larger than your will operating around you, and sometimes through you. That is the limitation of power working precisely as designed. The second cloak, Vidya, the limitation of knowledge. Right now, somewhere in the world, a tree is falling. You did not see it. You did not hear it. For you, that tree did not fall. Your reality, the actual lived texture of your existence, is bounded entirely by what your awareness reaches. What falls outside that reach simply does not exist in your world. This is the limitation of knowledge at work, the contraction of omniscience into a particular limited perspective. And here is something worth sitting with carefully. If this cloak were removed, if you came suddenly aware of everything simultaneously, the falling of every tree, every conversation happening right now in every language, every thought arising in every mind on this earth, you could not function. There would be no you to function. So, the limitation of knowledge is not a flaw, it is the precise instrument that makes a focused, coherent individual life possible. The third cloak, Rag. The Sanskrit root of this word means to be colored, to be tinged, the way white light passing through stained glass takes on the color of the glass it moves through. Consciousness in its natural state is like that white light, complete, undivided, lacking nothing. This cloth tings it with the color of an object, a person, an achievement, a particular feeling you keep trying to return to. And the moment consciousness takes on that color, something shifts. It begins to feel that completeness it is sensing lives inside that object, that the fullness is out there in the person, in the achievement, in the feeling, if it only could be held long enough. And so the reaching begins. But here is what the ancient teachers observed. The fullness was never in the object. The object was simply the mirror in which consciousness caught a glimpse of its own completeness. The color was never the light, and the light was never actually diminished by the color it was passing through. The fourth cloak, Kala, the limitation of time. Consciousness in its natural state is outside time entirely. Everything simultaneous, past, present, future, as a single undivided field. This cloak contracts that timelessness into the experience of living in sequence, moment after moment, one thing at a time. The irreversibility of before and after, the weight of the past, the uncertainty of what comes next, the particular ache of knowing that this moment, this exact configuration of light and warmth, and the people present will never exist in quite this way. That is the limitation of time, making the eternal feel precious through the experience of its passing. The fifth cloak, niyati, the limitation of causation, the contraction that produces the experience of being here and not there. This person and not another. This particular path through time and not the infinite others that were never taken. The limitation of causation is the force that makes your life individually and uniquely yours. The specific grain of the wood, the particular door that the impulse towards recognition will knock on in this lifetime. 5 cloaks, 5 precise contractions. And here is where most teachings stop too soon. They present these 5 as problems, limitations to be overcome, cloaks to be stripped away on the path to liberation. The ancients point somewhere much more subtle. The 5 cloaks are the costume consciousness chose to wear in order to play this particular role. And recognizing them, truly seeing them for what they are, does not dissolve them. It changes your relationship to them entirely. The cloak is still on. The one wearing it simply remembers it is wearing a cloak. Now, let us return to the moment of waking. A person in a very deep sleep. The dream is vivid, completely convincing. The people in it real, the fears real, the love and losses as substantial as everything experienced in waking life. And then, without effort, without technique, simply through natural movement of consciousness, doing what consciousness does, the dream begins to thin. The edges soften, and in the space between dream and waking, before the ordinary world fully assembles itself, before the name returns, before the history, before the 5 cloaks have pulled themselves back into place, there is a moment of pure open awareness. No limitation of power, no limitation of knowledge, no reaching, no wanting, no sequence, no particular path, just awake. And then the reconstruction begins. The room arrives, then the body, then the day, then the name, then the whole elaborate and beautiful architecture of a bounded individual. The daily dissolution, the daily return, and this moment, far from being an obstacle on the path to recognition, is recognition offered freely every single morning. The 5 cloaks reassembling themselves slowly enough that you can watch them arrive. 5 cloaks, one by one, settling back into the shoulder of the self. And underneath them, the same open awareness that was present before the first one arrived, still here, unchanged. The cloaks did not cover it, they rose within it, the way clouds arise within the sky, without ever touching what the sky is. Tomorrow morning, before the coffee, before the phone, before the day reassembles itself into familiar weight, stay in the gap for one breath longer than usual. Let the room arrive slowly. Let the name take its time. Watch the 5 cloaks settle into place one by one. And notice what was present before any of them have arrived. That is what you are. It was never covered. It was only ever the sky in which the clouds were already openly appearing.